After his wife learned that his first love was breaking up, he seemed to have changed into a different person, trying every way to meet his first love every day. But I was not angry at all, and even took the initiative to keep my distance from him. Just when I spent a lot of money to find a lawyer and discuss divorce matters, I was told by the Civil Affairs Bureau that my marriage certificate was fake. Sir, your marriage certificate is fake. You and the Miss Liu on the certificate have never been husband and wife in the legal sense, so there is no need to apply for a divorce. I looked at the marriage certificate handed back by the clerk and was stunned for a moment, but I figured it out immediately. That's right, the person she wanted was never me. And besides, this way I would not have to entangle with her about divorce, so I could save time to do my own things. I returned to the shabby rental house from the Civil Affairs Bureau. On the small sofa, Liu Ruyan was staring at her phone with a smile on her face. I didn't realize it until I walked in front of her. She hurriedly put down her phone and asked, "Are you back?" I didn't respond. Liu Ruyan stood up again, pointed to the necklace on her neck and said with a smile, "I like the gift you prepared for me very much. Don't buy such an expensive necklace next time. You work so many jobs and it's not easy to make money." The necklace was a birthday gift I made for her last month. It cost me nearly half a year's salary and it was delivered today. I glanced at her coldly with a calm tone. Such indifference made Liu Ruyan a little uncomfortable. She said that many times just now, but I used to hug her excitedly and said that I would give her any expensive gifts and give her the best life. Liu Ruyan noticed my low mood and hugged me from behind, saying gently, "Are you under too much pressure recently? Let's take our time with buying a house. Don't be too tired. I'll take a shower first. Let's go to bed early today." After saying that, he let me go and turn to the bathroom. His phone, which was left on the sofa, vibrated. There was a message. I looked at it and, as expected, it was Li Zefeng again. "Ruyan, I like the car you gave me very much." At the end, there was also a photo of the man in the sports car. I saw that sports car when I was working part-time as a security guard at a car show. It was worth tens of millions. I looked at myself in the full-length mirror in the living room. I was tanned by the sun and my skin was cracked because of making money. Bitterness spread at the corners of my mouth. I still remember that when I first met Liu Ruyan we were in a company. At that time, Liu Ruyan was still an intern in the company. The leader arranged for Liu Ruyan to follow me to get familiar with the work. In the lifeless company, Liu Ruyan was like a lotus in the mud. A lotus out of the water, with an extraordinary temperament, which made people imagine and moved me. I pursued Liu Ruyan for 3 years. Liu Ruyan said that her family was very poor, and she came to this city to work hard. I did not back down. I felt more and more distressed for him and worked harder. Since the two of us confirmed our relationship, I have been working day and night, holding several positions. My ideal is to buy a house and give Liu Ruyan a stable and comfortable life. Just a week ago, when I was delivering food to the Holiday Inn in the suburbs, I unexpectedly saw Liu Ruyan. At the hotel carnival party, Liu Ruyan, who was covered in luxury goods, was surrounded by the crowd in the center, like a moon surrounded by stars. "Ayan, when are you going to confront your poor boyfriend? You are the daughter of the Liu group. What's the matter with you hanging out with people like him every day?" "That depends on Li Zefeng." After all, Ayan chose that cheap guy to fall in love with just to be angry with Li Zefeng and stimulate him to change his mind and return to Ayan. It's really hard for us, Ruyan. For love, she can endure and hang out with that smelly man who is sweaty and smelly every day. The laughter came into my ears, and the ridicule between the group of people became stronger. You know, the man spent half a year's salary and a huge sum of 100,000 yuan to make a necklace for Ayan in Ayan's jewelry store. She must think she is so infatuated and moved herself. In fact, 100,000 yuan is not enough for Ayan to have a meal. Standing in the corner, a delivery man wearing a helmet, I watched all this quietly without saying a word. I finally know that the girl from a poor family in my eyes is the daughter of the boss of a listed company, an unattainable golden branch and jade leaf. Dating with me is just because I am humble enough and cheap enough so that I can better stimulate the man named Li Zefeng to return to him. It was for this purpose that he got a fake marriage certificate from me and posted it on WeChat Moments. The funny thing is that I was so happy at that time. That night I walked on the empty streets for a long time. The cold wind kept invading. Even if it rained, my steps did not stop like a machine. When I woke up, I was in the hospital ward. The doctor gave me the test report. I had a severe cold and leukemia. The cause of leukemia is long-term overwork. I called Liu Ruyan more than a dozen times in a row, but no one answered. Until the next day, I saw Liu Ruyan sunbathing on the beach in her WeChat Moments. There was a man's hand behind her. When he applied sunscreen to her, I finally figured it out. Instead of dragging the sick body and entangled with Liu Ruyan, if I choose to leave this world in a comfortable way, I will calm down after leaving him. I got up and went to the bedroom, where I bumped into Liu Ruyan, who had just come out of the shower. The moment our eyes met, a smile appeared on Liu Ruyan's lips just like before. He kissed me, grabbed my hand, walked into the bedroom and pushed me down. A hot and humid breath rushed around my ears, and that familiar warmth was teasing my body. The difference was that this warmth could no longer arouse my desire like before. I held his rebellious hand, his tone was cold. I was tired, but Liu Ruyan didn't force me. That night, we slept in each other's arms like before. I got up early in the morning and started cleaning. I threw away a lot of things such as the gray scarf Liu Ruyan gave me. When I first moved in, I didn't know how to tie a scarf. Every time I went out, Liu Ruyan would always tie the scarf for me personally, and then reluctantly send me out. For example, Liu Ruyan bought a sweatshirt that he found was too big and could only wear me. Every time I came home wearing that sweatshirt, Liu Ruyan would always grab it. I put the sweatshirt on myself, saying that it smelled like me. There were also photos of me and Liu Ruyan, couple cat and dog pajamas and couple shirts. Why did you throw all these things away? I don't know. When Liu Ruyan appeared behind me, questioning with dissatisfaction, saying that I would buy new ones when they are old. I made up an excuse and walked out the door with the garbage bag. Before entering the elevator, Zhang Zhiyue called me. I made up my mind that when I get a divorce, I would ask this brother who is a lawyer to help me prepare a divorce agreement. I have sent you the agreement. Have you really thought about the divorce? Why don't you calm down first? I still remember you said that your biggest ideal in this life was to have a home and a child with Liu Ruyan. For so many years you have worked 8 jobs for this, and in the middle of winter, you ran more than 10 miles to buy him his favorite sugar-roasted chestnuts. I can't count the similar things. You have paid so much and you are really willing to give it up. I was overwhelmed with emotion, a feeling of bitterness. He paid a lot for me and even almost lost his life for him, but all I got was deception and false feelings. What about having a home, a child, the beautiful future I imagined, but it was always self-deception. In Liu Ruyan's eyes, I was just a cheap tool to stimulate another man and return to her. I laughed at myself. What was there to be reluctant about? I hung up the phone, turned on my phone, and deleted the divorce agreement. After all, a fake marriage relationship did not need a real divorce agreement to resolve. After throwing away the garbage, I went home and found that there were guests at home. Li Zifeng, a grown man, had tears in his eyes and cried that he was heartbroken. Liu Ruyan squatted in front of him with a tissue, comforting him softly. Before that incident, what I heard from Liu Ruyan was that he and Li Zifeng were friends, childhood sweethearts who had a good relationship so that they could wear the same pants. In a situation like today, he came to Liu Ruyan uninvited to seek comfort. I can't count how many times it was. Of course, I had quarreled with Liu Ruyan because of this, but every time, he would always act coquettishly and explain, "Don't think too much. I am Li Zifeng's only friend in this city, and I have to take care of him." Whenever he said these words, there was always a smile at the corners of his eyes, and he was tender and affectionate. That look made me soften my heart all of a sudden, and I never quarreled with him because of Li Zifeng again. In order to put Liu Ruyan's mind at ease, I even took the initiative to become friends with Li Zifeng and drink happily with him. Now when I look at Liu Ruyan in front of me, when I wipe away Li Zifeng's tears, I feel the distressed look in her eyes and feel the love that is about to overflow. Thinking about my previous self, I was really so foolish. Thinking of this, I felt annoyed in my heart and turned to go back to the room, but was stopped by Liu Ruyan. "Zhouqi, let's go to the video game arcade later. Ace is in a bad mood today. Let's have a good time with him for a day," Liu Ruyan said. "Okay, I didn't refuse. I don't want to quarrel with Liu Ruyan because of this. I don't want to. 他将着他攻占了北京城. English, he had too much communication. In the video game arcade, Liu Ruyan took Li Zifeng's hand and taught him how to play the dance machine. He, who had always been impatient, showed unprecedented patience. Li Zifeng played a shooting game, and he screamed excitedly like a fangirl every time he scored a goal. The two were like a couple in love, and I stood not far away and watched silently. I couldn't play games. I had leukemia and couldn't do strenuous exercise. The increasingly crowded crowd made me more and more uncomfortable. I squatted by the wall and gasped for breath. The severe pain brought by the complications of leukemia made my eyes blurred and cold sweats broke out. I needed to take emergency medicine, but the medicine bottle was knocked over by the crowd. The pills were scattered all over the floor and I fainted. The screams of passersby couldn't make Liu Ruyan turn her attention away from Li Zifeng. I was ignored just like countless times before. Liu Ruyan accompanied Li Zifeng until the evening. After the game, he took Li Zifeng to the restaurant without stopping. As for me, he seemed to have completely forgotten he missed this person, or maybe he thought that I was not here and he was just doing his own thing, so he got his wish and went to the Western restaurant with Li Zifeng. This famous couple restaurant should have been crowded, but it was empty tonight. There was only a table in the center of the restaurant with exquisite meals, red wine and roses. Why was there no one in Ian? Facing Li Zifeng's question, Liu Ruyan did not speak, but took out a handkerchief and wiped the sweat from his forehead with a doting face. At this time, the sound of the piano sounded, and a soothing female voice came. Li Zifeng looked in the direction of the sound, and his surprise could not be concealed. "This is my favorite singer. Let's go and eat. You are hungry too, right?" As Liu Ruyan said this, she took Li Zifeng in. He looked at the man next to him who was so excited, and a smile unconsciously appeared on the corner of his mouth. The restaurant was booked by him, and the singer was invited by him at a high price to sing for Li Zifeng alone. He seemed to be very satisfied with this arrangement, but Li Zifeng did not finish listening to the singer's performance. His girlfriend called, and then he said he was leaving, and no matter how Liu Ruyan tried to persuade him, she couldn't stop him. Looking at Li Zifeng's departing back, Liu Ruyan was like a deflated ball, probably unwilling to see all his carefully planned today go to waste because of another woman. He slammed his fist on the table. After a long time, Liu Ruyan removed the singer and turned on his mobile phone. Li Zifeng did not reply to his message, but found my missed call instead. It was at this time that he suddenly remembered that there were 3 people when he went out this morning. With anger, Lu Ruyan called back. Where are you? A strange response came from the other end of the phone. Ms. Liu, this is the municipal hospital. After Mr. Zhou was sent here, we found you through the emergency contacts in his mobile phone. Half an hour later, Lu Ruyan appeared in my ward. Are you okay? Why didn't you tell me that you were sick? His tone was very soft and my head was not calm either. I responded that I just fell down. Seeing that you and Li Zifeng were having so much fun, I won't disturb you. Today it's because of Li Zifeng, he's heartbroken, I didn't mean it, I don't want to listen to these explanations made up of lies, it's okay, as long as you are happy. Lu Ruyan held my hand tightly, perhaps to cover up the guilty conscience caused by everything he did today. His tone was very gentle. We are husband and wife, we are going to spend the rest of our lives together. I don't want there to be any gap between us. If there is anything unhappy in the future, just tell me, okay? You will always be my number one for me. I used to be moved by such words every time at this time. All I thought in my heart was that I must treat her well, even if I would give everything. But now there is only coldness in my heart. I know. I forced a smile. After saying this, Lu Ruyan finally let me go. After that I rested in the hospital for a week. He never showed up again. The first call I received after being discharged from the hospital was from the boss of the store where I worked part-time. Before, in fact, I had already resigned, but the boss still wanted me to help again. Work for a day. The boss has helped me many times before, so I couldn't refuse. I was busy until the evening. I felt that my body had reached its limit, but fortunately I had delivered the last order. In the eastern suburbs villa area, I knocked on the door, and it opened soon. The person standing inside the door was Lu Ruyan. The moment their eyes met, Lu Ruyan was panicked. Aren't you in the hospital? I'm calm. You just got out of the hospital. Where are you? Why are you here? A trace of guilt flashed across Lu Ruyan's face. My friend's birthday is today, and he invited me to his house for a drink. No accidents, it's another lie. I handed the takeaway in my hand to Lu Ruyan, poked my head in, and took a look at the magnificent decoration in the villa. After so many years, why didn't I know you had such a rich friend? Lu Ruyan was stunned and laughed. That smile was very unnatural. You just came back from abroad, you don't know him, why did you come out to work right after you got out of the hospital and you hurt yourself? Go home and have a good rest. I smiled bitterly and looked at the person I had just rushed to. Lu, the broken arm, the diamond ring that I didn't have when I proposed to you, I want to give it to you on your next birthday. This is the truth, and it was also the original intention of why I got this job. There was no diamond ring when I proposed to you 2 years ago, and I have always wanted to make up for this regret. But now looking back, even the marriage certificate is fake. Everything I have done, except to prove how stupid I am, seems to have no other meaning. Lu Ruyan listened to my words, and there was some blood on my stained arm in front of her. The heart of this pampered young lady suddenly ached. What are you doing, Sister Yan? Does it take so long to get a takeaway? A woman's voice came, and Lu Ruyan's best friend, who had not seen her come back for a long time, became anxious. The woman came over, and was a little flustered when she saw me. After she reacted, she immediately covered for Lu Ruyan. My boyfriend is here, come and play together. Before I could respond, I was pulled into the room. In the crowd, I am not used to the way these rich people have fun, or it was because of the contempt they showed for me in their every move that I felt out of place, so I wandered around the villa on my own. On the dressing table in the corridor on the second floor, there were many invoices left by Lu Ruyan for purchasing video game consoles, graphics cards, and airplane models. Each of them was the best product on the market and very expensive. I remembered seeing these things once when I went to Li Zifeng's house before. At that time, I was wondering why Li Zifeng would spend so much money to buy these things. It turned out that this was the case. I walked in and found a puppy. Its doghouse was very simple, made of just a piece of clothing. When I approached and saw the clothes clearly, I was struck by lightning and froze in place. My mind went blank. That dress was bought from the counter last year after I worked non-stop for a whole week. I have always been very frugal, and couldn't even afford to buy myself an extra bottle of water. But at that time, when I thought about giving Lu Ruyan money to buy clothes, I didn't even blink. Thinking of him, how happy I would be to receive the clothes. I gritted my teeth, feeling a rage in my chest that I couldn't swallow. Bursts of laughter came from downstairs. They were playing cards and drinking. The bottle of red wine worth 300,000 yuan, which was equivalent to several years of my salary, was broken. No one cared. I left this place silently. Lu Ruyan soon caught up and took me away. In the underground garage, I was helped to the co-pilot seat. This also made me understand one thing. Lu Ruyan and I have never been from the same world. I stared at Lu Ruyan with a calm face. Go back, don't break up with your group of friends because of me. Lu Ruyan felt an inexplicable pain in her heart, and a feeling of guilt was rolling in her heart. If we break up, we break up. Compared with you, they are nothing. I'll take you to the hospital. He hurriedly sat in the driving seat and started the car. I looked at Lu Ruyan, who was trying her best to act like she loved me, and there was no ripple in my heart. I already knew the truth and could no longer live in hypocrisy as before. Lu Ruyan hadn't said anything yet at the exit. A rapid cell phone ring came. Lu Ruyan picked up the phone, and the car stopped after a while. I'll take a taxi to take you to the hospital. Something happened at home and I have to go back now, he said without waiting for my reply. He impatiently pulled me out of the car, leaving me alone on the street where the cold wind was howling. Is there an accident at home? I smiled bitterly, but I clearly heard it just now. Li Zifeng on the phone cried and said to him, Yan, he didn't want me anymore. I wanted to break up, and went to the hospital alone. After treating the wound, I took a taxi home for the first time. In the past, in order to save money, I walked or took the bus. When I got home, Lu Ruyan was nowhere to be seen, but his WeChat was still logged into the computer in the study. Someone sent a message. Are you sure you want to confess to Li Zifeng? Looking at this message, I froze in place. In other words, Li Zifeng was about to break up, and Lu Ruyan couldn't wait to confess. It doesn't matter, I'm leaving anyway, and this is the ticket I booked. I will be leaving this weekend, which means in 7 days. After that, what happens to Lu Ruyan and Li Zifeng has nothing to do with me. In the next few days, Lu Ruyan used the excuse of having something to do at home and stayed out for several days. I was half asleep that night when I was awakened by a banging on the door. As soon as I opened the door, Lu Ruyan, who was drunk, hugged me and kept muttering, "Why do you treat me like this? I've waited for you for so long, why don't you look back at me? As long as you are willing, I am willing to accompany you anywhere, and become the way you like. As long as you are willing." Lu Ruyan's voice was trembling, and he became more and more choked up as he spoke. I understood that he was treating me as Li Zifeng, and he should have failed in his confession. In the past, Lu Ruyan gave me the impression of being a very opinionated and strong person. Being yourself is what he often says. Now I understand that he just doesn't want to change for me because it doesn't matter. Lu Ruyan kept muttering in my ear, telling me about her feelings for Li Zifeng over the years, and about all the things she had done for him. Finally, I threw him on the sofa in the living room and went back to the bedroom alone. The next morning when Lu Ruyan got up, he felt dizzy. The window in the living room was not closed, and he had been blowing the cold wind all night. Zhou Qi shouted loudly, his voice full of anger, perhaps because I used to cook a bowl of sobering soup, help him take a bath, change into pajamas, and let him have a good sleep every night when he was drunk. After a while, he didn't wait for a response, so he had to go to the bedroom to find someone himself. As soon as he walked in, Lu Ruyan saw me taking medicine. "You are sick again." I covered the words leukemia special medicine on the medicine bottle and slowly replied, "It's okay, it's just painkillers." Lu Ruyan relaxed a lot after hearing this, turned around and saw the folded clothes at the head of the bed and the suitcase on the ground, and the mood that had just calmed down once again. He was not calm. I'm afraid even he himself didn't realize his overt nervousness. "Where are you going? Why are you packing so many things?" I put the folded clothes into the suitcase and casually said that they were all useless things and I planned to throw them away and buy new ones. Without waiting for Lu Ruyan to reply, I got up and left the room and went to the sink. In the next few days, Lu Yu was surprisingly quiet, even decadent. He often drank alone at home. I didn't ask much. I knew that Lu Ruyan was in this state because Li Zifeng and his girlfriend got back together. The two of them showed their love every day and had a lot of fun. It was like this until the last day before leaving. Li Zifeng called and invited me to go camping. I originally wanted to refuse, but Lu Ruyan seemed very interested in this matter, so I had no choice but to agree. Not long after, Lu Ruyan drove and took me to the downstairs of Li Zifeng's house. When he saw Li Zifeng coming towards him and his girlfriend behind him, his face instantly turned cold. Lu Ruyan's eyes never left Li Zifeng on the road. Because of this, he didn't even notice the truck coming from the front. The truck honked frantically, but Lu Ruyan was only looking at Li Zifeng in the rearview mirror. With a scream, the car crashed into the truck and overturned on the side of the road. The flames engulfed the car. Li Zifeng's girlfriend fled the scene as fast as she could after realizing that the car was likely to explode. Li Zifeng and I were stuck in the car. Because of our instinct to survive, we frantically begged Lu Yu, who had escaped from the car. I wanted to save him, but Lu Ruyan only had eyes for Li Zifeng. He tried his best to pull Li Zifeng out. Thick smoke rushed into my mouth and nose. I felt my consciousness becoming more and more blurred. The last thing I saw was Lu Ruyan supporting Li Zifeng as he left. When I woke up, I was in a hospital ward. The nurse told me that it was the truck driver who brought me here. As for Lu Ruyan, there was not even a message or a call from her until now. I smiled, and that smile was full of self-mockery. I forced myself to walk out of the ward with my weak body, wanting to go through the discharge procedures. Unexpectedly, as soon as I walked out of the door, I heard Lu Ruyan's voice coming from the next ward's voice, and looked through the crack in the door. I saw Lu Ruyan, who was carefully feeding porridge to Li Zifeng on the hospital bed. His face was full of heartache, fearing that Li Zifeng would feel uncomfortable at all. "Ruyan, that woman, I have seen through her, she doesn't love me at all. If you still want, will you be with me?" Li Zifeng stared at Lu Ruyan closely with a sincere tone. Facing Li Zifeng's confession, Lu Ruyan was not as excited as I imagined. He was like a puppet, expressionless as if he didn't hear it. I was a little surprised to see this scene outside the door, but I didn't think much about it. It was probably the sudden surprise that scared Lu Ruyan silly. After all, that was the confession she had been expecting for many years. He was the one she wanted to get, even if she had to fall in love with a man as humble as me. Lovers finally get married, and the heartless witnessed it with their own eyes. I didn't stay any longer and turned to leave. After returning home, I simply cleaned up the house. In fact, I didn't have many of my things. The only thing I didn't know how to deal with was the gifts Lu Ruyan had given her before: the watch bought at the street stall, which cost about 10 yuan, the gaming mouse that Lu Ruyan gave me as a birthday gift, which cost 9.9 yuan with free shipping, and the clothes that faded after one wash, which cost 29.9 yuan, which was a wedding anniversary gift. 2-year anniversary gift. I was deeply moved by these things and felt that as long as it was Lu Ruyan's intention, it was priceless. Now I think that he sent these things just because he felt that I was easy to deceive, and anything would be fine whether it was valuable or not, or because I was a cheap man who was not worthy of his daughter, so I was only worthy of these cheap things. It doesn't matter. I packed these things, put the suicide note that I had already written into the box, and mailed it to Lu Ruyan's villa. The suicide note contained what I wanted to say to Lu Ruyan. I am an orphan, and Lu Ruyan is the closest person to me in this world. It was Lu Ruyan who made me feel the weight of love for the first time. So I could only send this suicide note to Lu Ruyan, even though I already knew that everything in the past was false and insincere. I packed my suitcase and took a taxi to the airport. In the terminal, I sent a breakup message to Lu Ruyan. Actually, I originally wanted to ask for a divorce, but then I thought we have never been really married, so breaking up is more appropriate. After sending the message, Lu Ruyan replied to more than a dozen messages in a row. I didn't read them, turned off my phone, boarded the plane and took off. I looked at the city in front of me where I had lived for more than 20 years, which became smaller and smaller. I once fantasized that I would have a beautiful future with the one I loved here and have a home like everyone else. Now I know that I will never come back. During my days in Berlin, I wandered the streets every day, trying to catch this last moment. One evening, the sky gradually darkened, and the afterglow of the setting sun sprinkled on the street, covering everything with a faint golden color. I was like always. I was walking along the familiar streets as usual, but I felt more and more empty and confused in my heart. When I walked into an alley, I suddenly heard a noisy sound. I stopped and looked and saw several gangsters surrounding a girl. Their words were vulgar and their actions were wanton. The girl's face was full of fear and helplessness. She struggled desperately, but could not get rid of the gangsters' entanglement. A surge of anger surged in my heart. I rushed over without hesitation and shouted to let her go. The voice echoed in the alley. The gangsters turned their heads and looked at the uninvited guest who suddenly appeared. One of the gangsters with dyed red hair smiled disdainfully and said, "Don't mind your own business, kid. If you don't want to get beaten, get out of here." I did not back down. I walked to the girl and protected her behind me. "Don't go too far." The red-haired gangster became angry and punched me. I dodged sideways, but the other side was outnumbered and powerful, and soon I was surrounded. The thugs punched and kicked me and I could only barely parry. I was injured in many places, and in the fierce resistance I felt mixed emotions. I thought of my life, which was full of frustration and pain. Now my life is about to come to an end, but in a foreign country, I am standing for a strange girl. I looked at the thugs' hideous faces, and a sense of determination surged in my heart. Anyway, I was about to die, and it was worth it to do something meaningful in the end. Although I tried my best, I was outnumbered and knocked to the ground. I lay on the ground, the pain in my body made me almost unconscious, but my eyes were still firm, staring at the thugs. Then a hurried sound of footsteps was heard, and Lu Ruyan appeared with a group of bodyguards. When he saw me lying on the ground, he was full of his face was covered in blood and his heart ached. "What are you doing?" he shouted loudly, with anger and majesty in his voice. Lu Ruyan's voice was sharp and powerful, echoing in the narrow alley. The gangsters were startled by the sudden momentum, and they stopped what they were doing and turned to look at the newcomer. Lu Ruyan was wearing a black slim dress, which set off her graceful figure. Her long hair was standing high, and a few strands of hair fluttered in the wind, adding a bit of heroic spirit. The bodyguards behind her were wearing uniform black suits, with stern expressions and unquestionable deterrence in their eyes. Seeing me lying on the ground, covered in blood, Lu Ruyan's heart seemed to be tightly grasped by an invisible big hand, and she was in so much pain that she couldn't breathe. He rushed over regardless of everything, squatted beside me, gently helped me up and called out in a trembling voice, Zhou-Qi, wake up." I opened my eyes with great effort. The moment I saw Lu Ruyan, a hint of surprise flashed in my eyes, but it was quickly replaced by indifference. I weakly said, "Why are you here?" Lu Ruyan did not answer my question. Instead, she turned her head and glared at the gangsters fiercely. The murderous intent in her eyes made the gangsters shudder. "You are so brave to touch him," Lu Ruyan said, gritting her teeth. The leading gangster said in a cowardly manner, "Who are you? Mind your own business." Lu Ruyan sneered, "You are not worthy to know who I am. None of you can leave today." He waved his hand, and the bodyguards immediately understood and quickly surrounded the gangsters. The gangsters saw that the situation was not good and wanted to resist, but in front of the bodyguards' professional fighting skills, their resistance seemed so powerless. Soon the gangsters were beaten. They knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. "Please spare us, we won't dare to do it again," the gangsters cried and screamed, but Lu Ruyan ignored their pleas for mercy, and took out her mobile phone and dialed the police. "Hello, police? Someone is deliberately hurting people here. The location is..." He calmly explained the situation to the police. After the call, Lu Ruyan immediately called an ambulance. While waiting for the ambulance, he kept holding my hand tightly, as if this could give me strength. His eyes were full of worry and concern, and he kept saying, "Zhou-Qi, hold on, the ambulance will be here soon." I looked at Lu Ruyan's anxious look, and my heart couldn't help but ripples. Once I longed for Lu Ruyan to care about me like this countless times, but when all this really came, I felt it was so unreal. I turned my head away, not wanting Lu Ruyan to see me. The ambulance arrived quickly, and the medical staff lifted me onto a stretcher and sent me to the ambulance. Lu Ruyan also got in the car. He sat beside me and his eyes never left me. When we arrived at the hospital, I was pushed into the operating room. Lu Ruyan paced anxiously outside the operating room. Her heart was full of self-blame and regret. She kept asking herself if she had shown up earlier, would Zhou-Qi not have been injured? A few hours later, the door of the operating room was finally opened, and the doctor came out, took off his mask, and told Lu Ruyan that the operation was successful, and the patient was no longer in danger of life, but needed to be hospitalized for observation for a period of time. After Lu Ruyan heard this, the big stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. He gratefully said to the doctors, thank you for saving Zhou-Qi." I was pushed back to the ward, still in a coma. Lu Ruyan sat beside the bed. Looking at my pale face, tears couldn't help but burst out. He gently held my hand, put it on his cheek and murmured, "Zhou-Qi, you must wake up soon, I can't lose you again." In the following days, Lu Ruyan would stay by my bedside every day and take care of me carefully. He would personally cook porridge for me and feed me mouthful by mouthful. He would wipe my body and change my clothes. When I woke up, he would tell me some interesting things to make me happy. However, my attitude towards Lu Ruyan was still cold. Although I accepted Lu Ruyan's care, I seldom took the initiative to talk to her. Every time Lu Ruyan chatted with me, I just responded with a few simple words and then fell into silence. Lu Ruyan knew that my heart had not been untied and the harm I had done to myself was still vivid in my mind. He decided, use your actions to prove your sincerity and let me accept myself again. I slowly opened my eyes. The dazzling light made me feel uncomfortable. I subconsciously frowned. The ward was filled with the smell of disinfectant. The liquid in the drip bottle was dripping drop by drop. My eyes swept around and finally fell on Lu Ruyan, who was sitting beside the bed. Lu Ruyan noticed my movement and immediately raised her head, her eyes full of surprise. How do you feel now that you're awake? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Her voice was a little anxious, and she held my hands tightly with both hands, as if she was afraid that I would disappear again. I looked at Lu Ruyan with mixed feelings in my heart. Once, I longed to see her face when I woke up countless times, but now, this desire has long been replaced by hurt and disappointment. I gently pulled my hand back and said lightly, I'm fine, thank you for saving me. I looked at her. Lu Ruyan's smile froze on her face. She felt my alienation, but she did not give up, but stared into my eyes tightly and asked nervously, what was the matter with the suicide note you sent me before? Why did you write something like that? His voice trembled slightly, and his eyes revealed deep fear. I turned my head away, not wanting to see Lu Ruyan's expression. I was silent for a while, and perfunctorily said it was nothing. Just a momentary impulse, just a joking. Lu Ruyan raised her voice. He couldn't believe what I said. Do you know, when I saw that suicide note, the whole person collapsed. I thought I had lost you forever. Her tears burst out and slid down her cheeks. I looked at Lu Ruyan crying, and felt a little reluctant in my heart, but the pain of the past made it impossible for me to let go easily. I said coldly that it was all, it's in the past. You don't have to mention it again. Lu Ruyan took a deep breath, trying to calm herself down. He looked at me and slowly said, do you remember the first time we met? At that time I had just arrived at the company for an internship. The last time he sexually harassed me, it was you who stood up to me and confronted me and finally beat him up. From that moment on, I had a good impression of you. That scene emerged in my mind, and a complex emotion surged in my heart. I silently said that you had a good impression of me, but it was only because you wanted to stimulate Li Zefeng through me and come back to you. You never really loved me. When Lu Ruyan heard this, she was struck by lightning. She looked at me in disbelief, tears streaming down her face. How did you know? I sneered. When I was delivering the takeaway, I heard the conversations of your friends. I finally understood that I was just a cheap tool. Lu Ruyan's body trembled slightly. She cried and said, sorry, I was wrong. I couldn't see my own heart clearly at that time. I was blinded by Li Zefeng. The time after you left, I lived a life worse than death and numbed myself with alcohol every day. I understand now that you are the one I really love. I looked at Lu Ruyan without a ripple in my heart. I said sarcastically, your acting is still so poor. What's the point of saying this? Now Lu Ruyan grabbed my hand and said anxiously that I really knew I was wrong. I had severed relations with Li Zefeng. I only hope you can come back to me now and give me a chance to make it up to you. I shook off Lu Ruyan's hand and said firmly that it was over between us. It was impossible to go back to the past. Lu Ruyan's tears kept flowing. She said desperately, I know I have done a lot of wrong things and did not understand that you were deceived by Li Zefeng, but I have really changed. Please give me another chance, okay? I looked at Lu Ruyan indifferently, without a trace of warmth in her eyes, as if the person in front of me was just a stranger. Do you think that a few apologies can make up for the harm you have done to me? My voice was low and cold, and every word seemed to be squeezed out from between my teeth. I have given everything for you over the years, but what did you treat me as? A doll that can be summoned at will and dismissed at will? Lu Ruyan's tears kept flowing, and her body trembled slightly, as if she was hit by my words. No, I really know I was wrong. Her voice was crying and full of regret. At that time I was too stupid and blind, and was blinded by Li Zefeng's sweet words. I thought he was the one I wanted, but I ignored your kindness to me. My sincerity, I sneered. What's the point of you saying these now? I am no longer the me who is at your mercy. I turned my head and stopped looking at Lu Ruyan's face. Go away, I don't want to see you again. Lu Ruyan saw my firm attitude. Her heart was filled with despair. She slowly stood up, dragged her heavy steps, and walked out of the ward step by step. At the moment of closing the door, he looked back at me, his eyes full of reluctance and sadness. During my hospitalization, Lu Ruyan's figure was like a tireless watchman, appearing in the ward on time every day. The morning sun had just sprinkled in the window. He hurried over with carefully selected flowers. Those flowers were delicate and gorgeous, red like fire, pink like clouds, white like snow. Each one was full of his deep affection. He carefully put the flowers into the vase, gently adjusted the position of the flowers, seemed to be arranging the most romantic ceremony. Then he would take out the meals he cooked from the thermal box and place them on the table one by one. There was my favorite braised pork, which was bright red in color and fragrant, as well as fresh steamed fish, which was cooked to the perfect temperature, and various carefully matched vegetables, which were rich in nutrition. Lu Ruyan sat by the bed, calling me softly, hoping that I could taste her cooking skills. However, my heart was as hard to melt as ice. I turned a blind eye to the flowers and meals sent by Lu Ruyan, with a cold and resolute look in my eyes. When Lu Ruyan left, I would not hesitate to throw the flowers into the trash can and watch the petals scattered all over the floor, just like my broken heart. The meals were also placed aside intact by me, leaving them to gradually get cold. Did he think that these could make up for the harm he had done to me? I thought coldly in my heart, how could these things erase the pain of the past? All kinds of things in the past kept emerging in my mind, those days of being deceived and neglected, like sharp blades piercing my heart. Every time Lu Ruyan came to the ward and saw the thrown away flowers and untouched meals, her heart would surge with pain, but she did not give up. She knew that it would not be easy to win back my heart, so she decided to pursue it more attentively and persistently. One day Lu Ruyan brought an album, which was full of photos of her and me. There were warm pictures of us watching the sunrise at the beach, happy moments of laughing and playing in the playground, and romantic scenes of walking in the rain. He sat beside me, turning the album page by page, and softly telling the stories behind each photo. Do you still remember this one? We waited at the beach for a whole night just to watch the sunrise. When the first ray of sunshine when the light shone on us, you hugged me tightly and said that you would love me forever. Lu Ruyan's voice was choked with a little sob, and tears welled up in her eyes. I looked at the photo album, and a ripple appeared in my heart. Those memories came like a tide. The beauty of the past and the pain of the present were intertwined, making my heart incomparable. I struggled, but I quickly buried this emotion deep in my heart, and said indifferently not to mention the past. Lu Ruyan was not discouraged. She continued to work hard. She would gently massage me when I was resting to relieve my physical discomfort, tell me some funny jokes to try to make me happy, and silently accompany me when I was in a low mood, giving me silent support. However, I was still unmoved. My attitude towards Lu Ruyan was still cold, and my words were full of resistance. I felt that the gap between Lu Ruyan and I was too deep, and the trust we once had was broken and could never be together again. It can't be repaired, Lu Ruyan, don't waste your energy, we are over, it's impossible to go back to the past, I said to Lu Ruyan again and again, but Lu Ruyan answered firmly, no, I won't give up, I believe that as long as I persist, one day you will accept me again. The days passed, Lu Ruyan's persistent pursuit continued. He didn't know how long he could hold on, but he had only one belief in his heart, that is, to let me return to his side. After I was discharged from the hospital, I dragged my tired body back to the hotel. The moment I opened the door of the room, the whole person was shocked and stood there. In the room, Lu Ruyan was wearing a thin pajamas, like a blooming rose, exuding a charming scent. His eyes were intertwined with expectation and uneasiness, staring at me tightly, as if waiting for my response. Why are you here? My voice was low and cold, as if coming from hell. My eyes were full of anger and surprise, staring at Lu Ruyan, as if the person in front of me was a stranger. Lu Ruyan slowly stood up and walked towards me. His footsteps were light and slow, as if he was afraid to disturb me. Zhou Qi, I am here to prove my sincerity to you. His voice was soft and firm, tears flashed in his eyes. I love you and I can't live without you. Lu Ruyan slowly raised her hands, her fingers gently hooked the shoulder straps of her pajamas. With a little force, the pajamas slipped off like snowflakes, revealing her skin as white as mutton fat jade. Her body trembled slightly. Her eyes were full of expectation, looking forward to my hug. My eyes turned cold in an instant. I seemed to be possessed by a demon. I suddenly stretched out my hand and pushed it away. Lu Ruyan, don't do this, we are over. How many times do you want me to say it? My voice was as loud as thunder, full of anger and determination. Lu Ruyan was pushed back repeatedly. His body lost balance and fell heavily to the ground. His eyes were filled with tears. He looked at me helplessly. His heart was filled with pain and despair. Are you really so cruel? His voice trembled and was full of sadness. We used to love each other so much. Have you forgotten those beautiful memories? I looked at Lu Ruyan. A pain surged in my heart. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. Those memories may be beautiful to you, but for me they are just the source of pain. My voice is low and hoarse, as if every word was tearing my heart. I have been giving, have been accommodating you. But what about you? You have never really cared about me, cared about my feelings. Lu Ruyan cried and said, I know I didn't do well before, I will change in the future, I will love you well, love you like you love me, please give me a chance, please. Okay, I shook my head, my eyes full of determination. It's impossible, I already have my own lover, he is the one who truly understands and loves me. There was no warmth in my voice, as if announcing the end of a relationship. Lu Ruyan was struck by lightning when she heard this. She looked at me in disbelief, tears kept flowing. Are you telling the truth? Who is he? How can I compare to him? His voice was full of jealousy and unwillingness, as if he was competing with an invisible opponent. I did not answer Lu Ruyan's question. I turned and walked to the door, opened it and said, Go away, don't come to me again. My voice was cold and firm, without leaving Lu Ruyan with a glimmer of hope. Lu Ruyan stood up in despair. She put on her clothes silently and walked out of the room slowly. At the moment she closed the door, she looked back at me, her eyes full of despair and sadness. She knew that the distance between her and me had getting farther and farther away, so far that I can't reach it. I secretly hoped that the lie I made up could be like a sharp blade to cut off Lu Ruyan's last attachment to me. I looked at Lu Ruyan, her face distorted by shock and sadness, and an indescribable complex emotion welled up in my heart, with relief and a faint stinging pain. Lu Ruyan's eyes were full of jealousy and unwillingness. He was like a lit powder keg, and his emotions exploded in an instant. How am I inferior to him? He shouted hysterically, his voice echoing in the room. Can't you see everything I've done for you? His tears poured down like a flood. I admit that I was wrong before, but I've been trying to change. Why can't you give me another chance? I turned my head away, unwilling to look Lu Ruyan in the eye. My voice was cold and firm. Once something happens, there's no going back. The things between us, the cracks in our relationship, cannot be mended by a few apologies. In my mind, I can't help but recall the days when I was ignored and deceived by Lu Ruyan. The pain in my heart became more and more intense. Lu Ruyan slowly approached me, her eyes full of pleading. I beg you to tell me who he is, I just want to know where I lost. His body trembled slightly, like a fallen leaf shivering in the cold wind. I took a deep breath, turned my head and looked at Lu Ruyan coldly. Don't bother me anymore. This is good for both you and me. I'm very happy with him. He understands me, unlike you. My words were like sharp knives piercing Lu Ruyan's heart. Lu Ruyan's body shook and he almost fell to the ground. He looked at me in disbelief, his heart full of despair. Okay. He murmured to himself, since you've made your choice, I respect your decision. He slowly turned around, dragging his heavy. I walked towards the door step by step. When I reached the door, Lu Ruyan stopped. She looked back at me for the last time, her eyes full of attachment and reluctance. Zhou, if there is an afterlife, I hope we can meet earlier. I will definitely love you well. Her voice became lower and lower, and finally disappeared into the air. I looked at Lu Ruyan's departing back, and my heart ached. I slowly walked to the window, watching Lu Ruyan's figure disappear on the street, and tears flowed down involuntarily. I knew that from this moment on, the relationship between Lu Ruyan and me was completely over. The room was filled with a depressing atmosphere. I sat on the bed powerlessly, my heart was empty. I thought of my impending death, but felt a little relieved in my heart. Maybe this is the best ending, I murmured to myself. In the days that followed, I began to silently prepare for my own death. I sorted out my belongings, threw away what should be thrown away, gave away what should be given away, and I also wrote a suicide note, in which I wrote down my last wish and my farewell to this world. After Lu Ruyan left me, she locked herself in the room all day, crying. Her world seemed to have lost its color and become gloomy. My figure kept appearing in her mind. Those beautiful memories of the past have now become the source of her pain. I was really wrong. Can you please come back? Lu Ruyan often murmured to herself in the empty room late at night. She knew that she would never have the chance to win back my heart. This feeling of despair made her feel unbearable. One day, Lu Ruyan's best friend came to visit her. Seeing Lu Ruyan's haggard appearance, her best friend felt distressed. Lu Ruyan, you can't go on like this. You have to cheer up, her best friend persuaded her. Lu Ruyan smiled bitterly and shook her head. I can't do it, my heart is full of myself, I can't let go. Her tears flowed again. Her best friend gently hugged Lu Ruyan. I know you are sad, but you have to believe that time will heal everything. You still have us, and there are many beautiful things waiting for you. Lu Ruyan leaned on her best friend's arms and cried even harder. She knew that her best friend was doing it for her own good, but she really couldn't get over the pain of losing me. The days passed, I was getting closer and closer to death. My body was getting weaker and weaker, but my eyes were getting calmer and calmer. I knew that I was about to get rid of all this pain and move towards eternal peace. Finally, the day of my euthanasia came. I got up early, put on my favorite clothes and tidied my appearance. I sat quietly in the room, waiting for that moment to come, and Lu Ruyan on this day suddenly had a strong premonition. He felt like I was going to leave him. His heart suddenly tightened and he rushed to the hotel where I was staying regardless of everything. When Lu Ruyan arrived at the hotel, I had already left. He anxiously asked the hotel staff, and the staff told him that I had gone to the euthanasia agency. At this moment, I had completed the injection and was lying quietly on the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling with empty eyes. Everything around me seemed to have nothing to do with me. The ward was filled with a depressing atmosphere that made people breathless. My thoughts drifted back to the past. The days I spent with Lu Ruyan flashed through my mind like a movie. I once thought I had found true love. In order to give Lu Ruyan a bright future, I spared no effort. I worked hard and lived frugally, just to buy a house and give her a warm home. However, reality dealt me a heavy blow. I found myself to be just Lu Ruyan. Ruyan, a tool used to stimulate Li Zifeng. All my efforts were shattered like bubbles. My heart was filled with pain and helplessness. I felt that my life was a complete tragedy. I longed for love but never got it. I worked hard to pursue happiness, but eventually lost everything. Now I am terminally ill. My life is about to come to an end. I feel that I have lost the meaning of living at this moment. The door of the ward was suddenly pushed open. Lu Ruyan rushed in. Her hair was messy, her eyes were full of anxiety and despair. Zhou, you can't die. She threw herself on me, crying and shouting. Please give me another chance. I really can't live without you. I looked at Lu Ruyan. A complex emotion surged in my heart. I once loved this woman deeply and gave everything for her. But now I am full of resentment and disappointment in her. Lu Ruyan, please go. My voice was weak and calm. Everything is over. We can never go back. Lu Ruyan shook her head desperately. Tears kept flowing down. No, I don't believe it. I know I did a lot of wrong things in the past. I hurt you, but I really have changed. Please give me another chance. Let me prove it to you. I sighed softly. I know Lu Ruyan's words are from the heart, but I no longer have the courage to believe. My body is getting weaker and weaker, and my consciousness is beginning to blur. Lu Ruyan, forget me. Live a good life. I used up the last bit of strength to say this sentence, and then slowly closed my eyes. Lu Ruyan watched me gradually close my eyes. Her world seemed to collapse at this moment. She shook my body frantically, shouted my name loudly, but I no longer responded. You wake up, you wake up. Lu Ruyan's crying echoed in the ward, filled endless grief and regret. She knew that she would never have the chance to make up for her mistakes. I left her forever. The doctor and the nurse walked into the ward. We gently pulled Lu Ruyan away, and then began to perform the final examination on me. The patient had passed away. The doctor's voice was low and heavy, announcing my death. Lu Ruyan collapsed to the ground, tears pouring out like a flood. Her heart was full of self-blame and regret. She hated herself for not understanding my love earlier. Why she hurt me. I'm sorry. Lu Ruyan kept muttering to herself. Her voice was full of pain and despair. She knew that she would spend her whole life in regret. My funeral was very simple. Only a few friends and Lu Ruyan attended. Lu Ruyan stood in front of my tombstone. Tears kept flowing down. She looked at my photo on the tombstone, as if she saw the smile I once had. Don't worry. I will live a good life, Lu Ruyan said. Softly, I will go on bravely with your love. From then on, Lu Ruyan began to work hard to change herself. She devoted herself to work again. With her talent and hard work, she achieved great success in her career. She also actively participated in various charity activities, and used her own strength to help those in need. However, in Lu Ruyan's heart, there is always a corner reserved for me. She knows that I am the most important person in her life. My love will always accompany her. In every quiet night, she will think of me and the good times we once spent together. Zhou, I miss you so much. Lu Rian often calls my name silently in her heart, and tears flow down unconsciously. She knows that I have left her, but my love will always remain in her heart, and become her driving force to move forward. The end.